Thank you, Mr Speaker. This has been a really interesting debate. And it's been interesting because tonight, of all nights, on the night when we heard a valedictory speech from a Prime Minister that has given us as a nation the pride and confidence to go bravely into the world, full of our own faith and ability in ourselves, that tonight, of all nights, we should have this delineation between those on this side of the House who want to give people choice, who have faith in people's ability to make their own arrangements, who have faith in their own ability to negotiate contracts, terms of engagement and severance arrangements of their own free will. And on the other side of the House, sir, we have an opposition that has resorted absolutely to type. Oh, no, we cannot have people making arrangements that they know best, that they want to enter into freely and of their own volition. And so, sir, this bill actually represents a very clear delineation of the philosophical differences between a government that is aspirational, that is confident, that has people's best interests at heart, and an opposition that wants to be narky and snarky and say, no, government knows best. We do not believe that you are going to be big enough and bold enough and brave enough to make your own employment arrangements. And so this is fundamental philosophical difference between an optimistic, positive centre-right government and an opposition that wants to revert to big government, government knows best, and let's wait and let the legislators arrange all the conditions of our employment. So this is a simple bill. It's not a radical bill. It's a simple little bill that gives people a right, should they choose, non-compulsorily, to come to an arrangement in terms of their own employment negotiation that allows for a severance package to be negotiated favourably in terms that are agreed between an employer and an employee, and then when an employment situation ends, to provide certainty and confidence for both parties that they can proceed to end their employment relation with the employee receiving a severance package that's been pre-agreed, and with an employer having the confidence that they're not going to have the sword of Damocles of a personal grievance hanging above their head, and an employee who might want to just say, well, there's nothing that I'm going to lose by having a crack at clogging up the employment court system or a mediation process. I might as well have a go, because the employment agreement has actually been agreed prior to the termination, and what this bill seeks to do is allow voluntarily, non-compulsorily, with the protections of legal advice, legal counsel, a situation where, should the two parties agree, they can. Personally, Mr Speaker, I don't have a problem with that. And to hear the last speaker stand in this House and say that the motivation for legal reform in this Parliament should be protest is, I think, appalling. I know that that member comes from a Vietnam generation, and she was born and raised with a protest banner, and she's proud of all that sort of stuff, but that isn't the only method. That isn't the only method for legal reform in this Parliament, and Lord may it never be. So there are people who want to have civilised, open and free employment negotiations, and they want to make the most of those. And why should we as a government, why should we as politicians get in the way of that? Sir, in my introductory speech on this bill, I made it clear that I hope that at Select Committee some matters will be addressed. And there is an easy and simple way to address the matters raised on the other side in terms of human rights. And those employers, and there are some, who are just bad employers, those provisions can easily and properly be included. But I want to conclude, Mr Speaker, by reciting again what Andrew Little said when this bill was drawn from the House, from the ballot. He said it was, and I quote, the sort of thing a Labor-led government would be keen to look at, especially for chief executives. He went on to say, subject to a discussion about the threshold, he agreed that the bill in principle would be a good one, and that he thought Labor would support it to a Select Committee. Mr Speaker, I'm very surprised that the Leader of the Opposition has flip-flopped again, and they're not supporting it. This is a good bill. I commend it to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those